Okay guys, with the pre-shading done on the underside, I'm ready to start spraying the underside colour. For this I've chosen Gun's hobby colour H67, which is RLM65 light blue. I'll give it a shake. For this one I'm also going to be using the larger of my two airbrushes, the Iwata trigger action airbrush. Okay, now we need to thin this down obviously to spray on, and I'll be spraying in light coats so I don't completely obscure the pre-shading, building the coats up, that kind of thing. Now what I want is a thinner that's not going to cause the airbrush to block up at any point or clog up. Acrylics have a horrible tendency to clog up while you're spraying them because they dry so quickly. I've been doing some experimenting lately and I've actually found that Morrison's window cleaner, believe it or not, I don't know whether it's a detergent in it that stops it from clogging the airbrush up, but it certainly seems to thin the paint well and gives a good effect when spraying. The actual green colour of this doesn't affect the final colour at all, and I've tried this with pure white spraying using this to thin it, and it doesn't affect the final colour at all, so it's certainly not going to affect a light blue which tends towards the green end of the spectrum anyway. So I'll give that a good shake. Okay, again, give it a good stir. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove the top from this bottle, just so that I can pour the window cleaner straight into the colour cup. Okay, so I'm going to pour a small amount of the thinner into the colour cup. In fact, that was rather more than a small amount, but what I'm going to do is spray a little bit of this thinner through the airbrush just to make sure it's perfectly clear for what's to follow. Okay, and with that done, I'm just going to pour a goodly amount of the RLM65 in. That's about half a pot I've added there, which will probably be, in all fairness, the amount that's going to be used on this model. So again, I'm giving it a quick stir with the brush, a very brief back flush. There you can hear that bubbling. Okay, and as before, put the lid on so I don't cause any problems when I'm spraying. Go a ways off the model, and there you go. I've got an immediately great coverage. The good thing about this airbrush is it's great for quick, large coverage. So as you can see, I'm just laying down a coat there. Okay. Make sure. Remember, the trick with this is to keep building coats. Keep building light coats. It looks initially like it's barely covering at all. It will do. It will cover it. Just keep building your coats up. Okay. A little speck of something there. As you can see, I've got the engine nacelles just tacked in place with some blue tack, and that is more or less it for the initial painting stages. What I'm going to do is get this completely covered. and then I'll probably go back, thin the paint back a bit more, add a bit more thinner, and then really start building up very, very light dusty coats over the model as I go, making sure obviously to get all the leading edges done. Make sure you cover all the areas well past the actual division line for the blue, so that when you come to mask you're not going to end up with any areas that need retouching. So you're travelling well into the upside camouflage with the underside blue. Okay. It's not difficult this, is it? What I'll tend to do is give the most of the pre-shading areas a few seconds of extra coverage, just to start the actual blending through process. Because going onto a light colour plastic, you shouldn't really need a lot of paint, you just need to blend the dark colour well in. Because as the paint dries, so there's a quick coat over the entire model at the moment. Okay, you can see that you can probably see that the pre-shading is starting to come through as the paint dries. So what I'm going to do is add some more thinner to the paint, and then it's literally repeated misting coats over the model. Okay, I've actually used a good portion of that paint getting that far, so I've added probably thinned the paint back, so it's probably only about 30% paint and 70% thinner in there. Okay, back flush to mix it. A swig of my coffee, and then we're gonna start really. I don't know if you can see how thin this paint is going on now, but it really is very, very thin indeed. Okay, occasionally you can cut to the air if you've got a good double action airbrush. Cuts on, there's no paint coming through there, I'm just drying off the paint I've laid down. Okay, and as you can probably see, we're getting a really good patchy sort of effect now, a good worn sort of paint effect, which is exactly what I'm aiming for. So very happy with that. So what's going to happen when I've done this is I'll cover the fact that I will be doing some post shading of this blue as well. Which I'll go through that with you when I've done this. So as you can see, the actual pre-shading is really starting to fade right into the background now. Exactly what I want it to do. I've always said if you can see pre-shading, it's too obvious. A bit of an exaggeration, but not much. It should really be something that shows through to subtly alter the tone of the paint on top, not actually change it or appear obviously like you've painted great big thick black paint marks or lines under the top coat.